I don't know if you know this, but my brother and I, we live life in the fast lane, and that means no stop signs, no red lights, and there is no pulling over to take pictures. Now, you see this man over here?
What's up?
He's my co-pilot on this magic carpet ride. It's carry-on only, and you're just way too much luggage.
Shut up, Doug.
Welcome to Something Crunchy, the Valley's #1 comedy entertainment podcast. Biscuit is homies with Blake. Blake is the older brother of Blair. And Blair is married to Biscuit. Here are your hosts, Colin Blake with Blair and Tyler Dressel.
All right. Welcome to Something Crunchy. I'm Colin Blake. With me as always, Blair and Tyler Dressel. Thank you for joining us by way of 97.3 The Rattler, or wherever you get your podcast. We are diving right into our 8th season, and we have such a crunchy guest joining us tonight. He's an actor, writer, producer, and stand-up comedian who you know from Saturday Night Live, A Night at the Roxbury, The Middle, and Corky Romano. Please welcome Chris Kattan.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Gals.
Thank you for joining us, Chris. It is a privilege and an honor, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
So good.
Amazing.
We are thrilled to have you on. Been really enjoying these sketches that you've had on social media. If you haven't seen them, you can find them on the Chris Kattan official IG page. And the best place to start is the Naked and Afraid spoof. There's a link below right there in the show notes. These are really funny, and Naked and Afraid just begs to be spoofed.
Yeah, it was a parody. Yeah, thank you.
It's such a good parody. And what are your chances of actually making it 21 days in the wild if you had to?
I'd probably make it about an hour.
You and me both. Forget the Amazon or some swampy shithole. I couldn't make it 21 days in my own backyard if you brought me water and 3 meals a day.
Exactly.
My favorite part in the show is when they'll be out walking around and come across some rotting carcass and then get super excited. Like, I wouldn't think for a second that was food or anything useful. You could give Blair and I a fresh carcass every morning and we still wouldn't make it a week out there.
Yeah.
Tyler has better odds, but he'd still tap out around 8-10 days max. You would.
I would.
Well, this is far from your first spoof and parody. Sharknado 5, The Ridiculous 6, Any Given Wednesday, all classics. What's the next big spoof or genre that needs a good spoofing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Although I love Indiana Jones, I could do an Indiana Jones impression. So maybe I could,
Such a good idea.
Here I go. I got the idol.
You even have the aged Harrison Ford impression and not the young. That's really good.
Yeah, I don't have the younger version down yet.
To like be able to get that rasp right.
No, that's difficult, but I'm here for that.
That's impressive.
So why do they call it the Crunchy Show? Do we eat cereal?
No, not that kind of crunchy. Crunchy is in more of a slang term. I was actually in a band called Something Crunchy a long time ago, shitty bar band, and I like the idea for calling the podcast that.
We basically
got
just
it. Okay.
called anything that was just like fucking awesome crunchy. So
Well, it is a great name. So
Oh,
regardless,
I appreciate that.
thank you.
What a crunchy thing to
I thought
say.
it might be like that hot sauce show where you eat cereal while you talk.
Oh, I mean, we could bring in some cereal. I'm
That
here
would
for
be the
that.
most annoying
Yeah.
thing to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
Even the ASMR people would be like, "Oh my god!"
Like, what kind of cereal do you think this is? While you're blindfolded, you're like, Lucky Stars.
You listen to my crunch and tell me
That
what
is funny. All right, that's a note for an idea.
It's going on our
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah,
We'll call you back
That's
for-
a game later.
for that one.
Yes, let's prepare.
Yeah.
Well, we are getting here pretty close to October, what we call Crunchtober around here. We have to at least bring up some horror movies. Do you have any favorites?
My favorite Halloween movie was probably the scariest one of all. It probably still is The Exorcist.
Exorcist
I
will
always thought that
always
was pretty
remain.
scary.
Yeah, and they have the new one. You know, they've done so many sequels to The Exorcist. Most of them
Sure.
weren't really worthwhile. I hope this one's different. We'll see. And you were in one, I remember well, House on Haunted Hill.
Yes.
Excellent. Is there a classic
Thank you.
horror villain that you could see yourself playing really well?
A horror villain?
A horror
Ooh.
villain.
I think the Joker would be cool.
Oh my
But
that's
god!
been
I
done so
literally
many
was
times.
just thinking that.
Wow. See, like
Yeah.
you could get away with doing like a Norman Bates type. There's a few that I think would work, but Joker, that's a really good fit.
Yeah, I think that could be fun.
I think you put some thought into that.
Yeah. If I did put some thought into that, yeah.
Did you
I
have
just like to be evil person that doesn't kill anyone or hurt anyone.
see no
Just as evil.
that's good.
Don't
That's,
mess with people.
yeah, that's like Lex Luthor style. He never actually did anything evil. You just always thought he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to rule the world or bomb the place or whatever, but he didn't really
Every
do
good
anything.
villain wants to rule the world.
Yeah, that's like a James Bond theory or
Exactly.
Superman. You know?
Yeah. Did you have the ability to watch movies or TV shows from the mountaintop while growing up?
The mountaintop. Yeah, I did. I watched some. Yeah, I did. It was slim pickings, but I got to watch the best.
You have
So,
such
yeah.
an interesting upbringing. Your father, obviously, a founding member of the Groundlings with Lorraine Newman and Paul Rubens, Phil Hartman. And then you have your stepfather, who is a Zen monk on Mount Bali. It seems like you went from a bunch of silence and staring in a very introverted environment to spending weekends with your dad and comedy acts in an extremely extroverted environment. This is fascinating.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was born up in a place called, or raised. I was born in Sherman Oaks, and then when I was 2, my parents divorced, and raised up in a place called Mount Baldy in Southern California. And yeah, so we lived in a cabin, and my mom and stepdad studied Zen Buddhism, and they were up there with people like Alan Watts and Leonard Cohen and a lot of philosophical people, and so it was a big difference from what my dad did, which was in the Groundlings. So I'd visit my dad on the weekends, and on the weekdays I'd be up there in Mount Baldy. And but when you don't have a lot of toy stores and candy stores and stuff like that, you don't really have a lot around you to play with. So I kind of did what my mom calls create something out of nothing when you're not given much, and you just create out of that. So I started just doing impressions and making up characters and creating characters based on observance and stuff, a lot of things like that. So that's how I built like a resume of characters, that I ended up being able to write for when I learned it from the Groundlings.
So you kind of got tools from both sides. It's more obvious with what you got, being around your dad and that side. But even still, being up on the mountain, you kind of were forced to use some imagination and creativity just to not be bored up there.
Yeah, exactly. So I was fortunate. Actually, at the time, I was like, get me out of here. But, looking back now, I was very fortunate.
There's so many people today that would say Chris Kattan was a huge inspiration for them when it comes to comedy. Who would you say that about?
I think Eddie Murphy was one of my biggest influences. He's when I watched Saturday Night Live, I thought that was just he messed up a line, which he never did, and he said, I messed up. Shut up.
Shut up.
And the audience just roared with laughter. It's like a classic moment, and I thought, like, God, you could make a mistake like that, and the audience loves it, and the power of media. It's just like you can't lose in so many ways as long as you're really a gifted person. And like such as Eddie Murphy. But I mean, I have so many heroes. It's just crazy. I mean, Eddie Murphy, of course, and Steve Martin and Martin Short, and it just goes on and on. One of my biggest heroes was actually Buster Keaton.
I was going to say it had to be some of these physical comedians, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, the Marx Brothers. Like I would certainly think that would have a pretty big impact.
Yeah, he did. My mom used to play his movies on an old projector for me, and I used to watch movies like Steamboat Bill Jr. and The General, and there's a short called Cops where he's, being chased by cops, and he was just so incredible. I mean, yeah, he directed and scored his own films, but and performed in them, but he took chances and he was fearless, and I always thought I admired comedians that were fearless, and that were just willing to take a chance, and as opposed to being, very safe and I don't mean language wise, but I just mean safe with taking chances with themselves, being self-deprecating and being very vulnerable or through their characters,
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go as a performer. I always felt that way.
And that describes you and Eddie Murphy both very well, especially that moment you described where he even, made something funny out of a moment where he messed up. And that was kind of the first time you saw anyone break that fourth wall on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, that's the other thing. He broke the fourth wall. And that was pretty amazing. And it worked in his favor.
It definitely worked in his favor. It did. Well, I know everyone likes to bring up A Night at the Roxbury, and we will too.
Yes.
You've been open to the idea of a Roxbury sequel. You've even had a couple ideas. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that would be amazing to get the cast together, it'd be amazing to work with Will and again and Molly's and even the rest of the cast,
That was such a great
even
cast.
Mendez was in the cast. She had I think it's one of her first roles, but she was in the wedding scene. But it was a great cast, Colin Quinn and
Obviously, there was a lot of Saturday Night Live cast members in there, but you really have to kind of know your background and know more about the groundlings too. Because I love the story how you auditioned for Saturday Night Live with Sherry O'Terry, Will Ferrell, and Jennifer Coolidge. And I think Jennifer Coolidge was the only one out of that group who didn't make it onto the show. Am I right?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't know what the reason was because she's beyond hilarious, as we all know.
Beyond
so
hilarious.
she was beyond hilarious then, but she I think they thought she was too beautiful, honestly, because she was and she is. But
amazing.
that might have been part of the reason because it was just it's strange to know why, but you never know why. You just
never
have
know
no
why.
idea.
You
Yeah.
never know why. It was just good to see her in the movie and included with a lot
The
of the
group.
Saturday Night Live alum.
Right, exactly. She was in the Roxbury. She played a potty officer. I think
Yes,
was her name, I think.
police officer.
Yeah.
That's right. Is it true that you picked the song, or did you had something to do with picking "What Is Love"?
I did.
What?
I liked enjoying that kind of music. A lot of the songs that were on that album I enjoyed listening to at the time.
You and
They're very
everyone else,
poppy and
yes,
silly.
the bubblegum techno days.
That's a good way to put it. Bubblegum techno.
Yeah, it was very fitting for the
Fun.
time.
Yeah.
I love that you picked that song, and I totally get why you choose "What Is Love." But were there any others that were in contention?
The first song that we were going to choose, or that we did choose for the first sketch that we did was just Will and I, and it was not a third person. This great writer, Fred Wolf, who was the head writer at the time, was the one who suggested a third person, which was Jim Carrey, who really, blasted the sketch up into another level. And at first it was a song called More and More, and I have no idea who sang it, but it was, I guess I can hum it to you. It was more and more and more. You don't know where you're going to. So that was it.
I know that
But
song.
if
I
you-
know exactly what you're talking about. And yes,
you kinda do.
it's in that same Ace of Base class, and
Oh, okay. There you go then.
Yeah.
So it's been used before.
it has.
So we used it when we first introduced the characters at the Groundlings. We did it there, and and then when it became three people, I thought we should change the song because I was like, I've been listening to this other song, "What Is Love," and it'd be really cool to do to change it. And Will was like, "Sure, that's fine. I don't really listen to that music." I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." So he was much cooler about. He had much better taste in music than I did, maybe.
Up for debate.
we chose that song, and it was it became an anthem. It became its own thing.
Yes.
It's infectious.
Yeah.
Just
I
the perfect song choice.
don't recall the artist that did that song, but whoever they are, they owe you
His name is
debt of
Hadaway.
Hadaway, that's right.
Yes.
He owes
Yeah.
you a debt of gratitude for keeping that song
Can't hear
alive.
that song without
I
thinking
know.
about Night at the Roxbury. You just can't.
No, I gave him a debt of gratitude. He does. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. I don't think he really did, but that's okay.
He should. We'll do it on
He
his
should.
behalf. And have you heard the new version that was just released earlier this year by David Guetta?
Yeah, by a DJ. Sounded great. I loved it.
It's really cool. There's a whole resurgence with the song. It's time to think sequel.
It is.
Now's the time.
Everyone's talking about Night at the Roxbury now that this is back. So.
Well, I mean, they did
Yeah.
Bill and Ted. They did Coming to America. There's no reason
Yeah.
why I couldn't do it with Roxbury.
Yeah, I would love to do it.
I think that'd be awesome.
That would be amazing. Would love it.
Which SNL castmate was it hardest to keep a straight face with? It had to have been so difficult with who you were working with.
Oh, there was a number of people, probably Will, because Will and I had that friendship back from the Groundlings. And I remember in the Groundlings, there was this one exercise we did in an improv class where we were staring at each other. We had to stare at each other and we had to see who broke character first or broke. We had to stare at each other seriously. And whoever broke, not the break of silence and started laughing was the loser or lost the game. But it was just so hard to do that with them. We were both like crying. Our eyes were crying with laughter. But, it was just really hard to do that. So.
See, I can imagine the face that he was making during that exercise, and yes, that would be hard.
And Chris,
honestly, I think it would be harder to do. I think it would be harder to be Will than it would be
Chris.
to, yes.
I agree.
Oh, well, that's flattering. Yeah, maybe. Well, I think it was a likewise situation.
Two comedic powerhouses.
Yeah.
And we've hung out with enough character actors to know that sometimes these popular characters get requested in the bedroom. In your case, I can't imagine, but has anyone ever requested a cameo from Mango or Mr. Peepers?
A cameo? Oh, but they didn't say a full-on one. They just said, could you throw in a Mango statement or something? So I'll just go, no, you can't have the mango. Or something like that.
I didn't mean an actual cameo. I meant
bedroom.
Yeah, has any gals requested you to be in character?
Pull out your mango.
Well, they have sex with you.
Oh, yeah. People have done that many a time.
Yeah, all right.
They've always asked me to do a mango or would you do. They actually like me better than my characters, so.
I mean, that does make sense.
And that's great.
That's the goal, really.
That is the goal. See, my money was on Azrael Abyss.
Oh, Azrael Abyss. People do love that.
Oh, that would be fun.
The Prince of Sorrow.
The Prince of Sorrow. But yeah, I'm actually currently I got engaged. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, congratulations.
He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm not single, everybody.
Yeah.
Come on. I don't do that.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
Well, mango still might be requested. We don't know.
Yeah, no. People ask me to do that a lot. Not in the bedroom, but
Do your characters.
Maria is her wife, my wife or my fiance, and she has asked me to do that sometimes, but mostly for kids or something, but not for her exactly.
Not for role play.
Maybe in the beginning of the relationship a little bit because she was such a fan.
You gotta have a little fun with it.
So when's the big date?
Next summer. We're thinking next summer. We don't have an exact date.
Congratulations,
but next summer.
Chris. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
We're very happy for you.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah,
Are you guys married? Not to each other, but
no, to each other.
Yeah. So I have
to each other. You guys are
my husband and my brother Blake and my husband Tyler.
Yeah.
So yes, we're brother, sister, and husband and wife.
Tyler and Blair are married. Blake and Blair are brother and sister.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. So
That's so wild. You're like a family.
It's a family show.
Big happy.
We like to
family.
laugh together.
But we're not fucking family friendly.
Speaking of your characters, you have some of the most unforgettable characters in SNL history, and they're the ones that no one else could do. I still don't get how you were able to do that with an apple. Were there any specific apples that you needed to be able to make it spray and tear apart like that?
It had to be a Red Delicious apple because they're not hard and crisp like a Fuji apple or Fiji apple rather, and so I would just that was the easiest one to get through without but I always ended up cutting my lip or something like that.
You did. It didn't go incident. I don't know how you could do that without having something happen. Like we're not meant to do that.
It's so hard, but what really gave it away is when you saw Dwayne Johnson trying to do it like you, and it really it was good, but it wasn't even comparable. I mean, it's like, and he was like trying
that's right
to get the full Apple drama, and it just wasn't even the same. Like you can't do it like Chris.
Well, it's hard. I had it down to an art form for those who
You're
really want to make an art of eating an apple.
It was.
You made The Rock look like a real amateur.
Well, he was really game for it, and he was so cool at it, and he actually ate through the apple probably quicker than anyone else did.
those sketches still hold up today, and that's my favorite part about that SNL era. I mean, we watched you and Sherry O'Terry's Car Shopper skit the other night, the one with Ben Affleck in it.
Oh, yeah.
We were just in tears laughing at that.
It's funnier now.
It makes you miss the days when you just could not miss Saturday Night Live. Like, you had to see it. And I miss it.
It was more fearless back then, and I think people weren't, it's a very, things have changed since then. Humor has changed. Everything has changed. So times have changed. So, it was a different era and a different time that you were allowed to do stuff and able to do stuff and make sure, that the guest host was more fearless as well. Like Saturday Night Live kind of represented that time to do a lot of things that were fearless. I mean, like Will's American flag one where his underwear was all the way up his butt. And, I don't think you could do that now.
Oh my gosh. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And, or just the Sherry and I sketch, you may not be able to do that now. And who knows? I don't know. But I think the thing is that we were just encouraged to do what we did into the Groundlings, and we did that. If we worked together before, that was a big plus for the cast, as opposed to put us together and then learn from there, which was hard because it was an office space. And Groundlings gave us a great opportunity to work together and discover things through improv. That's why it's such a great institution.
So back then on SNL, when you guys had more freedom, did Lorne ever tell you to dial it back? Or you guys were going too far, or was he?
Yeah. He did sometimes, for sure. Yeah. So that was just a passerby. He did do that. Yeah, sometimes.
I can't agree with you more how comedy has changed and evolved over time. And I think kind of the bar has been lowered for kind of the standards of comedy. Do you think that it's cyclical in nature and that we'll get back to kind of more good writing, maybe some of that physical comedy again, or are we just going to continue on our downward trajectory?
I'm sure there'll be physical comedy. There is still. But I don't. It's hard to predict that one. That's a question for the masses.
Yeah, that's true. You were talking about Lorne Michaels. There's rumors that Tina Fey is taking over for Lorne's spot running SNL. Would she be the right choice if Lorne were to step down?
If that's the case, I think she'd be fantastic. I mean, I don't know if it's official. I haven't heard.
I've heard only rumors and speculation.
Rumors. So, but I don't know if that's the case. So, but if that were the case, she'd be fantastic. I mean, she knows the show very well, and she's brilliant, and she knows what it's like to be a great actress and a great writer. Obviously, she was head writer, and she came from Second City, so she knows all of that. So she'd be definitely one to trust. And when she was a head writer when I was on, and she did Weekend Update as well, and a performer, she had a lot on her plate, and she just always delivered. And so she'd be great if that's the case. That's going to happen. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I think she'd be a good choice.
Yeah.
So you and I have something in common in that we both collect Playboy magazines.
Yeah.
Yeah, your collection's more the rare editions framed on a wall. Mine's more the sticky ones under the bed. But tell us how this started and maybe some of the gems in your collection.
Well, I just wanted the number one issue. I'm a collector of things. It's the one with Marilyn Monroe on it.
You have the
first
one?
What?
Wow.
Yeah, I like the very old ones, the ones that weren't getting too raunchy.
Yeah.
And
back when people actually still did read them for the articles.
Yeah, exactly, because they did have great interviews in there, actually.
There was a lot of funny, too. Like, there was good satire and funny stories and
joke pages.
Yeah, there was good content in there.
Really?
Yeah, there was.
Oh.
That stopped in the 90s, I think.
They're like, get to good.
More Bush.
Yeah, I did not collect those. I collect all the way up to like 1960 something.
I don't think they have much value after the 70s. Those are the ones worth having. And you have the first issue with Marilyn. That's the holy grail.
Yeah, I just collected the 50s and early 60s.
That's the Princess Di Beanie Baby. That's the 1985
Yeah, that's the one.
Jordan 1 Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. So I have that somewhere in a box. I got to unload my boxes.
No,
But
that's a good
it's
one.
in a box somewhere.
Any other fun collections?
I collect old movie posters,
That's
and
great.
I have a lot of old original Star Wars action figures that are still in the box that have been unpunched, and that's kind of cool.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
All time Raiders of the Lost Ark, probably.
Oh,
Raiders of the Lost.
I love that question. I just feel like you learned so much.
Raiders of the Lost
Yeah,
Ark is a
probably.
great
It's just
movie.
a perfect.
It's
It's just a perfect movie for me, and a big thing for me on my childhood. You would think that or Lawrence of Arabia or Citizen Kane.
okay, classic.
Great
Um,
ones, yeah.
Yeah, those were great films that made a big influence.
Well, you're certainly a very recognizable person. What's been your strangest fan encounter? Not in the bedroom.
Strangest fan encounter. Not just somebody wanting me to sign a great deal of things that weren't personal. Yeah,
Bring a
like just sign your name. Just sign your name. Like here's a whole pile of things to sign.
Can you sign this DVD of RoboCop, please?
Yeah, of films that I never heard of.
This baseball
Here,
bat.
could you sign this cover of Gone with the Wind? Yeah.
That is random. You are one
Yeah.
of those recognizable people. Even your voice, I just can imagine you get a lot of
Oh,
fan
thank you.
encounters. Of course.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and we like to play a game on every episode and include our guest as well. Our Crunchtastic R&D department put together a little something fitting for the occasion. There have
Okay.
been some overlap between those who have hosted Saturday Night Live and those who have donned the cover of a Playboy magazine. If you'll indulge us, I'd like to give you some dates for each and maybe a clue or two and see if you can guess who they are. Is that cool?
Sure.
I think you'll do
Okay.
better. We'll start nice and easy.
Okay.
You got this.
I'm going to assume women on the cover.
Don't always assume that.
Don't always
Oh,
assume.
that's maybe not always.
I'll-
Okay.
I'll tell you whether or not. In this first one, yeah, it's the only one that isn't. He donned the cover of Playboy in January of 1980, and with 16 times hosting SNL, he's second to only Alec Baldwin.
16.
16 times next to Alec Baldwin. Steve Martin?
Steve Martin is correct. He's on the board.
1 for 1.
Oh.
Okay, see, there's some context clues in there.
getting
You
it.
don't have to depend on your knowledge of Playboy covers. I wouldn't expect you to have all
Well,
that
I would have thought
memorized.
Steve Martin. He's been on the show so many times.
Exactly. Context clues.
Exactly. All right.
Well, I remember the Five Timers Club. Can't be Tom Hanks.
She was on the January 1995 cover of Playboy and also happened to be the youngest person ever to host SNL at just 7 years old.
Oh, Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore is
Oh.
correct. I had more clues. He didn't even need them.
No.
He's on fire. All right. We gotta toughen this up a
I'm
little.
on fire.
Like a real pro.
Well, I know that she was the youngest one to host SNL because when I hosted with her, she said she was the youngest one to host SNL, and that was E.T.
Yeah, it was E.T. Yeah, that was in 1982 when she originally did it.
Yeah.
And she's hosted 5 more times since.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
All
So
right.
that makes sense.
This Academy Award-winning actress has hosted SNL twice, in 2000 and in 2014, and was on the cover of the May 1999 issue of Playboy. Was this Sandra Bullock, Charlize Theron, or Halle Berry?
Two-time. Oh,
99.
Charlize Theron?
Charlize Theron
You got
is
it.
correct. 3 for 3. Wow.
Well, she hosted SNL twice. Yeah,
She did.
3 for 3. I lost the first one.
Look.
No, you got it.
Oh, you got it, Steve Martin.
You haven't even lost yet.
Oh, I did get Steve Martin.
did
Oh, he was.
not.
I was right. Okay.
You got a no-hitter going.
Yeah, he's
okay.
in the middle of a perfect game. All right, we'll do 2 more. This 5-time Grammy winner posed for Playboy's cover in March of 2007 and has been an SNL musical guest 4 times, including once during your tenure on November 15th, 1997.
Mick Jagger?
Mariah Carey.
Ooh.
Oh.
Wow.
Mariah Carey.
Oh, so glad we got him. Perfect game.
Is
All right.
feel better now?
Whew, it's getting worried. Okay. One more. This needs to be a harder one. All right, let's stick with
Okay.
music. This 7-time Grammy Award-winning artist posed for Playboy in September of 1985 and hosted SNL once in 1986, but has showed up a few times in various sketches.
Hosted in 86 and showed up in various other times. Oh, she.
Including Wayne's World and Coffee Talk.
Oh, Madonna.
Madonna is correct. Why'd I do that?
You gave it to
You
him.
gave it away with the Coffee Talk.
Come on.
Because she did. She showed up in Coffee Talk in Wayne's World. I remember.
That was a horrible display of patience. And you only missed one. That was really, you were worried about that. That was really
You were
good.
worried about that. You nailed it.
That was fun. And thank you for doing that.
That was a lot of fun.
Hall of Fame numbers right there.
All right. Before we let you go, you wrote a very interesting book a couple of years ago, which is available on Amazon. I'll add the link. Tell us a little about Baby Don't Hurt Me.
It's an autobiography. It's very cathartic, and it's a good read. It's more about a comedian than a funny book. It's an interesting book. It's I wrote it years and years ago, and it's one of those books that had I written it now, it'd be different.
Well, what would be different
What
about
would
it
you
now?
change?
Would it be different? A different editor.
I
see.
Well, and there's more to the story now too, and getting married next year. That's really exciting. Is it kind of a memoir, or is it more just like stories and behind the scenes stuff?
Stories about how I grew up and my learning and through the groundlings and being on just my life and Saturday Night Live experiences and things that people seem to want to hear. But I wanted them to learn a little bit more about my mom and my relationship with my dad and how I grew up. And because a lot of people want to know how a comedian grows up and what was their influence and their heroes,
Of course.
Yes.
Those are the most interesting chapters.
It is interesting, and that is something that everyone wants to know, and especially if you have an interesting background like you do. Well, do not forget to check out Chris Kattan Official on IG, and that's where you'll find some of this great new stuff, classic skits from SNL, and even some audition videos that are not to be missed. Chris Kattan will be at the City Winery in Chicago tomorrow night. That's on the 13th, and you can find him in New York City at City Winery on the 16th and at Philadelphia on the 17th. Also, check out Baby Don't Hurt Me. That's available on Amazon.
Yeah.
There's a link right in the show notes. Chris, I feel I speak for the three of us and a whole generation of people when I say the joy and entertainment you have provided is truly unmeasurable.
Absolutely.
Our family
Well, thank you so
loves you
much.
like family.
Thank you.
You're a comedic force
That means
that is
a lot.
like no other.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. That's a very kind thing to say. Thank you so much, you guys.
Of course, we
And
appreciate your time
thank
dearly.
you guys.
Yes,
Thank
You're
you.
so
you
sweet.
so
We
much.
sincerely appreciate your time, Chris, and I hope we get a chance
All
to talk
right.
again soon.
Of course. Thanks you guys so much.
Thank
for
you.
this.
Good luck this
Bye-bye.
weekend.
Bye.
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 Shook the claw there. He's so cool.
It was hard for us to contain our excitement throughout that. I could tell. We're a little rusty. Worth the wait. What an interesting way to grow up, too. That is just nuts. He was a real treat and a fantastic way to kick off the season. Season 8 will be crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Starting off with the treasure? Come on.
There's always that time in between seasons where we wonder if the next season could possibly top the last. And this is like the first time that hasn't happened.
Yes.
The calendar, it's filling up quickly, and we have some good times coming ahead. As if that wasn't enough, new Dream Car giveaway over at 8080. In addition to the 15% off you get for using code CRUNCHY, every dollar you spend gets you entered in for a chance to win a brand new Lamborghini plus $60,000 in cash. You do not want to miss out. Nor do you want to forget to check out SomethingCrunchy.com, where you'll find every episode, our links to social media, and the Almighty Crunch Store, where you'll find all kinds of crunchy gear showing that you are a proud citizen of Crunch Nation. Join us every Friday night at 10 o'clock on 97.3 The Rattler, or find us wherever you get your podcast. This has been another episode of Something Crunchy, and as always,
Don't ever forget to live your crunchiest life.
And be crunchy to one another.
Please don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, and all that crunchy good shit. All episodes can be found at somethingcrunchy.com and on all podcast platforms. Thank you for listening.
Contact the mango. Or something like that. Yeah, of
I'm going
course.
to send you a whole table full of stuff to
Yeah.
sign.
Okay, yeah. Send me a whole pile of
Gone with the Wind
movies that I
poster.
could
Yeah.
sign.
A
and
kite in there.
If you
We'll
could
throw a.
Yeah, right.